Hello and welcome. I'm Sulaiman Alede. Tonight, Inspector General of Police Solomon Arasa warns against Pro-Biafra 1 million man march, threatens severe punishment for culprits. The All Progressives Congress says it will fulfill its social contract with millions of unemployed Nigerian youth by paying 5,000 naira monthly stipend. Lawyers to the Senate President refiled suit for the enforcement of fundamental human rights at the Federal High Court in Abuja. And black boxes show that bombs brought down the Russian airline around Sharm el-Sheikh.
On Business News tonight, efforts are being intensified to ensure that economic partnership agreements between ECOWAS and EU is signed.
And on Sports News tonight, Nigeria's Golden Eaglets are one win away from a historic 5th title at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Chile.
The Nigerian police seems to be spurring for a final showdown, with youth calling for the recognition of the indigenous people of Biafra. The Inspector General of Police, in a strongly worded statement today, said that the protesters who are from the southeastern region will be provoking the law if they do not stop such protest or call. He particularly made reference to the planned 1 million man march for the actualization of Biafra, which he says is illegal, and asked everyone not to participate. In his words, information available to the Nigerian police indicates plans by the indigenous people of Biafra to embark on an ill-advised protest using dangerous weapons across the southeastern states. For the avoidance of doubt, this is unlawful and no one should attempt to test the law. He reminds the youth that the law prohibiting the unlawful possession of firearms is still in force. He also warns against any attempt to unleash mayhem on innocent and law-abiding Nigerians. He says that anyone arrested in connection with this planned march will be appropriately dealt with. Before the warning of the Inspector General of Police, hundreds of youth took to the streets in Asaba, Delta State, blocking the major expressway leading to the east. At Summit Junction in Asaba, the group chanted war songs calling for the restoration of Biafra and demanding the release of a certain Nnamdi Kanu, who they claim has been detained by the Department of State Security. The group, who began their march at about 4 p.m. today, stopped motorists traveling to either the eastern part of the country or to Benin City in Edo State. According to our Delta State correspondent Vivian Oramadike, the protesters are still at Summit Junction and their presence is causing heavy traffic gridlock as motorists are said to have abandoned their vehicles, resulting to trekking home. The All Progressives Congress has given the assurance that it will not renege on its campaign promise to pay 5,000 naira monthly to 25 million most vulnerable Nigerians. In a statement issued by its National Publicity Secretary, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the party said it has devised creative means not only to pay the money, but also to fulfill its other campaign promises to Nigerians. The party also revealed that over 1.4 trillion naira, which was lying idle in commercial banks, has been mopped up under the Treasury's single account policy. The APC said the Buhari administration is also embarking on a massive infrastructure renewal program in the areas of roads, rail and power, for which $2.5 billion infrastructure fund has been put in place. The Lagos State Governor, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, today read the Riot Act to those who disobey the law in the state. Governor Ambode says he's uncomfortable with the recent reports of increase in crime and also the flagrant disregard for traffic rules in the state. The governor says beginning from tomorrow, anyone who goes against the law in the state will have to face the music.
Commercial motorcycle operators, commercial buses and street hawkers returning to restricted roads. Their action may lead to an increase in crime. sensing a return to the old order. The state governor says that he will no longer tolerate the situation where motorcyclists ply on authorized routes. He then reads the Riot Act.
We will not allow a few notorious elements in our midst to cause a breakdown in law and order and upset the peace that we are used to in the state. To curtail these challenges, we have decided on the full enforcement of the Lagos State traffic laws. For the avoidance of doubt, no person shall ride, drive, or propel any cart or wheelbarrow or motorcycle or tricycle on any of the routes specified in Schedule 2 of the Lagos State Road Traffic Law of 2012. The routes on this schedule are Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Apapa-Oshodi Expressway, Oworoshoki-Oshodi Expressway, Lagos-Ikorodu Expressway, Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway, Third Mainland Bridge, Etiosa-Lekki-Epe Expressway, Lagos-Badagry Expressway, Funshaw-Williams Avenue, Agege Motor Road, Etiosa-Lekki Coastal Road.
Another concern is the gridlock in the Apapa axis of the state, attributed to daily activities of petrol tankers in the area.
Based on this, the Security Council has decided as follows. All tank farms are hereby given a 90-day grace period to build loading bays for their tank farms. Any tank farm that fails to provide a loading bay after this grace period will be shut down by the state government.
The governor says the council has made far-reaching decisions at the meeting in line with the commitment of his administration to ensure security of lives and property, as well as enforcement of the rule of law. He then advised...
It's been a very challenging week for the former National Security Advisor, retired Colonel Sambo Dasuki. This is because though Justice Adeni Ademola of the Federal High Court granted his requests for him to travel abroad to receive medical attention, he was prevented by the DSS from doing so. Instead, men of the agency stormed his Abuja home, laying siege for several hours. In his response, Colonel Dasuki denied ever receiving any invitation letter to appear before a committee set up by President Muhammadu Buhari to investigate procurement processes relating to any arms transaction by the last administration. Joining me now to discuss the issues surrounding the trial of the former National Security Advisor is a legal practitioner and human rights lawyer, Mr. Ebun Oluwadobarua. Good to have you join us on the news at 10.
Good evening, thank you.
Quite a confusion going on here from the order from the court as well as what the DSS is doing. But the DSS has said that he has to answer to a particular committee. How does this sit with a law order, a court order, and a committee's invitation?
Well, I think that it will be clear that the DSS is on a warpath with the Federal High Court, and that is clearly unnecessary. If you recall that this whole Dasuki challenge started with allegation that he was trying to overthrow the government initially. It was when Nigerians demanded particulars of such activity that would lead to an individual likely overthrowing a government that they came up with this charge that he was found to be in unlawful possession of firearms. So in this particular case now, the DSS, indeed the federal government, is the prosecution. It was from the defense that an application came to be allowed to go abroad for medical treatment. So I think that is important that once a court has given an order, the Constitution clearly states in Section 287, verse 3, that everybody in this country must give respect to the order of a federal high court, all persons exercising authority in this country. So if the DSS is not happy with that order, it has to go back to the court to challenge the order. As long as there's no appeal against that order, there's no other choice than to respect it. And we've always been making this point. Once there's a criminal trial going on, we should spare ourselves the burden of trying to impress the powers that be. Because if you recall, this same DSS had a challenge with former Mr. Nasir El-Rufai, who was prevented from traveling. And he went to court and got a judgment, and indeed the passport was released. If a person is standing trial and is complaining that he has any medical challenge, he should be allowed to go and treat himself, because indeed it's only somebody who is alive who can do trial. And we are concerned now, Suleiman, that we are gradually descending into dictatorship. Because it's important that the president must not allow the agencies under him to give the impression to Nigerians that we have no right under the Constitution. We are under a democratic system, and Chapter 4 of the Constitution has guaranteed the right to movement. So it's important that we must emphasize that the rule of law must prevail in this country in all circumstances.
He was given 3 weeks by the court. Should we say the 3 weeks has already started counting?
Well, indeed, it depends on the reading of the order. If from the day that the judge granted the order, it was supposed to be for 3 weeks and he could not travel, the lawyers will go back and show evidence that indeed is the prosecution that is denying him the opportunity to travel. And we must not use law to give the impression that we are more or less trying to impose on citizens dictatorship, impose on citizens hardship. If there is a trial that is going on, the committee that is said to have been set up to try him should have been in existence before now. It is not now that the judge has granted him an order that committee should now come up with this excuse that he should come and attend the meeting of the committee. Every trial, every allegation must come once. You don't do trial piecemeal. You get one today, the man is out, tomorrow you bring another one. And we must recall that one day in this country, somebody will leave power. So DSS must be called to order. Because you recall, very recently, this same DSS stormed Akwa Ibom State, Government House. Very recently, this same DSS tried to intimidate witnesses that are testifying in election petition tribunal. The ruling party must not give the impression that it's using organizations and agencies of government to intimidate anybody. It is not proper.
Very quickly before you go, what should he be doing now since he's not been allowed to go out for medical treatment? Should he approach the court again?
I believe that number one is for the lawyers to demand enforcement of that order. Number two is to make an affidavit and report to the court. He should go to the airport. He shouldn't sit at home. He should leave his house, coupled with a copy of that order, and proceed to the airport to attempt to travel. He shouldn't just sit at home. It is when he gets to the airport, if he's not allowed to travel, that we'll know that they are not allowing the order. So we should go beyond press campaigns. He should be accompanied by his lawyers and attempt to enforce that order. And we must make this appeal to the president. Because when he was campaigning, he went to Chatham House and told all the world that he was removing his regalia of dictatorship and repented for the coup and all the military experience that we have had in this country. He should stick to that and be a Democrat. We shouldn't go back to dictatorship.
Thank you very much for spending time with us on the news at 10. Oluwadegborowa, a human rights lawyer.
Thank you.
In part 2 after the break, senators call for quick resolution of the case involving the Senate President and the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Stay with us.